Hello, welcome to this next episode of this podcast series. This is for those of you who have lived a quiet life, but despite that, don't want to commit to any indignity of being silenced. I'm Anichka. I don't like to talk. I'm not very good at it. So, therefore, I call this podcast series Practice Speech. And my goal is to make 100 of those in 100 days. I'm a little bit of a vagabond, so to give you something to look at while you listen, I toss in some pictures of my travels. You don't need to look at them, but since I don't want to release a video of my face just now, that's the best I can do. And that's actually what I want to talk about today. Doing the best you can and perfectionism. I'm recording this pod without any script or any specific makeup or anything, and I have decided not to edit it afterwards. This is a bit intentional, so because what I want to do is to practice, and practice speech is not just talking, but it's also like the concept of showing up without having like 2 weeks preparation and 3 backup plans already set up and paid for. So if you're a person who has ever been like prone to procrastination, or who like to look to other people to agree with you before you make a decision, if you postpone and like to wait for the right time, or if you want to wait for the right feeling, or if you have a feeling that you're kind of performing your life instead of living it, if you're scanning for reactions of people and adjusting your answers when you speak to them, if you have fear of being bad at doing something new, if you feel like that you need to wait for approval before you can relax and be yourself, or if you felt guilty for trying something new and failing at it, then I guess this video is for you. I grew up in a very orderly and organized household. My parents were of the older generation, and they had basically figured everything out already before I came along. Their generation, they ended the First World War, started the Second World War to fix the first, and then ended the Second World War too, then stuck around a little bit for a Cold War after that, and then finally dismantled that too. Party in the streets, everything is fine, history is complete, there's no need to do anything different, and we kids just needed to follow their example and go along the same route, and everything would be fine. So when I came along, I was, of course, a perfect kid, or at least that's what they told everyone else. I'm very bad at being best at things, because that means that I have to sort of stop thinking, and I have always found thinking to be quite enjoyable. So I started to make a mess out of things pretty early. I failed at almost everything I did. A lot later, I found out that this is what's called doing research, but I didn't know that back then. So I came out as a bit of a disappointment to my parents. And later, I also actually became a researcher for real. So if you ever wonder why I sometimes come across as rather condescending, I have a PhD in computer science. But don't worry, I'm not. I'm working on becoming a better person, so or a nicer person. Now I see myself as more of kind of a citizen scientist, and I like to use my life as kind of a lab to investigate things and ask all the stupid questions. And I don't have to come up with like evidence and stuff. So today I want to look at a little bit into the concept of perfection and why it's such a killer to creativity. I think my parents went well. they meant well. Um, they had done a lot of hard stuff, and they didn't want to do any more of that, and they didn't want me to do any kind of hard stuff, and that became sort of their life's ideal, which probably says more about them than it does about me. Um, but somewhere along the line, they convinced me that this uncomfortable feeling that you feel when you're doing something and you have no idea how that's going to go, that is something that is to be avoided, and that a recipe for a good life is to find a system that works and then stick to that no matter what. And I did that for a long time. I tried to find the perfect answer before I was going to do before I dared to do anything. And I didn't really know where to find it, but the library seemed like a good place. So I kept reading there and reading and reading, and thought that I would find the answer on how to do stuff. But the more I read, the more I discovered that people think different things, and the more theories and perspectives I read about, the more I realized that I couldn't find this one recipe. But I always longed to find it, and somehow that silenced me. And it didn't happen all at once, but I think it happened sort of in layers. And it came along um, with my longing to belong somewhere, and I was afraid to speak up before I knew that everybody would approve of what I was going to say already before. So um, even if the system had been as perfect as I was led to believe, and trust me, it really wasn't. I believe that a life like that is not really worth living, because that silence becomes something suffocating. The perfectionism becomes suffocating. And in the end, you can end up being a person that is not really being seen by anybody around you. And the people that you want to impress, they're not actually watching you, because all you do is put on a performance. I think that humans are wired for struggle, and to do hard things, and to change them and making them better. And if you settle down into too much comfort, you end up being miserable as well. So I figured out that I needed to sort of rediscover myself. And slowly I learned that the discomfort that I feel when being outside of my comfort zone, that was actually just a loss of familiarity. I was doing things that I wasn't used to. It was not a loss of identity or competence. It, when you're in a new environment, then it's exhausting at first, because everything requires your attention. You need to learn the new rules that you're going to play after. And the fact that I fail at something when I do something new, it actually says nothing about me. But other than that, I had the courage to try it. So I slowly tried to stop monitoring other people's moods, and stop trying to control how I was being perceived. And I think that's a step that you need to do if you are to familiarize yourself with being uncomfortable. You need to practice taking that shit of not being the one who knows everything up front. And what I discovered when I did that was I actually like that. In contrast to my parents, I actually like doing the hard stuff. I like the grit and the struggle, and aiming for lofty goals that I am never going to be able to reach. And that feeling good about something, it comes after you started doing something. So now for me, it's enough to um, I don't have to have a perfect plan in order to set out after my goals, but I aim to just accept that there is a workable moment. There is a first step that I can take, and then see where you end up. And then in the process, if you do that, I think that you will find your edge and find yourself also. Because being yourself is not something that is set in stone and that you always have to stick to. It's something that you have to rehearse for your entire life. You have to rehearse to be you. And to be able to do that, you have to do new stuff. And that means that you have to accept being the beginner. And by the way, I still think that my parents are wrong. Everything was not perfect the way they had made it up. And it still isn't. It's a rupture that we live in. And things are changing. Nostalgia is not really my things, but Terry Pratchett used to say that these are interesting times. And in interesting times, maybe we can build something better. So, this pod will not be perfect, and it's not meant to be. I see it, however, as a workable start. It is a first step, and it's an experiment that I will tweak as I go along. You can see it as an expression of the neurodiversity of the species Human sapiens. It's my own very, very biased opinion, and nothing more.